What's up, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is The Catch Up. What's going on, everybody? It's another week, which means another episode of the Catch Up podcast. Thank you for those of you that have been listening to us so far and checking us out and giving us an opportunity. We're going to try to do an episode every Monday so you can get your week started off with us, hopefully. And, we can add a little something to the start of the week. But that is the goal now that we have this thing kind of flowing here. Each Monday, at some point on Monday, you will have a new episode of the Catch Up. So that's what we're going for. But anyway, I feel like it's going pretty smooth so far. How about you, man?
Oh man, I think it's going pretty great. I know we're getting a lot better. I can tell you that much.
Yes, and I will say, hopefully, y'all can recognize an audio difference, a very big audio difference. We're trying something new. It's this website called Zencastr.
Hashtag not sponsored.
So we're giving that hashtag not sponsored once again. Not at this point, but we got dreams, we got ambitions. So, but yeah, right now we're just giving this thing a shot, and hopefully we'll up the audio quality. Like we've said, we're catching up. We are best friends who live states apart now, who are catching up, and checking in on each other, seeing how each other's lives are, bringing you along for that ride, and then just talking about trending topics and stuff you can hopefully relate to. And so what we're doing here is we're just, making it seem like we're not so far apart, like we're not talking on a cell phone and just recorded it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we really are putting a lot more work into it than that, for sure. So, but anyway, enough of that. What's going on with you, man? What's been going on this week?
Oh man, great stuff. It's pretty much it's been me trying to dodge all the rain. We've been getting a lot of rain, so it's me trying to dodge the rain, trying to stay warm because I hate the cold, and
I know.
it is freaking cold here. Well, I shouldn't say it's cold. It's colder than what I'm used to. I mean, I live in Texas. Come on now, we shouldn't get cold. So I don't really like that. But for the most part, it's pretty much just been that. I have update on the car painting situation.
That's good. All right. What's been going on with that?
So I kind of looked into it, and I'm thinking I'm just going to go with Mako.
Okay.
It has the best options, and it's pretty cheap. And like I said last time, I was, my previous car had the Mako paint job, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So, hey, 2 for 2, right? And at the same time, this is going to be a daily driver. So I don't need to get like a high-end paint job or whatever like that.
Sure. Well, and yeah, and when you're like guys like us on the come up trying to make something of ourselves, you gotta find. I actually enjoy this anyway, but finding the thing that's the best bang for the buck, you get the most out of the least amount of money, which sounds bad when you say it like that. It's really not. You're finding things that work best for you, like this podcast, like using this Zencastr.com. It's free. We have a limitation to how much we can record per month, but it's not anything that should really hinder us. So we're finding the best bang for the buck on that. And the same thing with Mako. I mean, we talked about this last week, and I'm glad to hear that there's like an update on this. And so, we've talked about how they're kind of hit or miss on the quality, and it depends on where you go, which one you go to, and who you get, and all that stuff. But at the same time, when you get the right person at the right shop, it's the best bang for the buck. There's just two ways about it,
Exactly. I mean, the one that I'm going to be going to is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the company owned, and it's not a franchise one. So
okay, that's even better, right?
Yeah, it is even better. I mean, I know when I got the Elantra repainted, I had it taken over to them, and they did a lot better job than the first ones that we went to. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's going to be great, to be
Oh, so
honest.
you did that twice? You went to Mako twice with that one car?
Yeah. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
funny enough, the first time I actually got it painted, it was not great. And after about a year or so, it kind of started to not really peel, but some of the flaws started to show a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we were actually going to try to go back to the same Mako shop that did it the first time. But funny enough, I guess they lost their license or their franchise with
Really?
Mako. So they actually dropped the Mako name and they were under some other car company name or whatever paint shop. So we ended up finding one that was nearby, semi nearby, I should really say. And we found out that was like a company owned one, not a franchised out one. And I mean, they repainted the whole car, they sanded everything down, repainted it. Because the problem was the original shop actually just pretty much resprayed. They just, or I mean, of course, it was a respray, but they just painted over everything instead of sanding everything down. Where the one that is owned by the company, that Mako shop actually sanded everything down. We could tell that they sanded it down because I actually got to kind of check in halfway through,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I saw like the prep work and stuff like that. So, I mean, I thought they did a pretty good job. And since it was under warranty, because I had a 5-year warranty, and they said, if anything happens, just come back and we'll honor that warranty. So, since it was under warranty, I got the whole thing for free and got a whole repainted and all that good stuff.
Oh,
So,
very cool. Yeah. So they actually did the job right and they actually gave you good customer service over there, right?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not too scared to worry about, oh man, what if it gets messed up or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, okay, so for me, like, um, I heard, my whole life growing up down there, that they're just you're just a number because obviously the population in Dallas is much greater than Wichita. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and the surrounding metroplex too. But um, so essentially, you can go to a place like Service King, right? Collision repair. Um, you can't say just the first part of the name. You have to throw the punchline in there too. Um, you can go to all those places and they're like, well, we're never going to see this person again, so we can just slide through and give them a cheap job and then just deuce out, but truly the exact opposite. Well, it's like the same problem but in the opposite way here in Wichita because um there are certain companies here that have built up such a rapport over time, because it's a lot of blue collar stuff here and like people building their business from the ground up. So some, not a lot, but some have gotten to a point where they're like resting on their laurels because they built up this reputation over time. So then their customers' parents went there and their customers' grandparents went there. And then eventually that person is going there, but they don't get the service that their parents or grandparents did because they're just like, hey, we don't have to do that. Our reputation speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why you can never rest on your laurels. You know what I'm saying? That we talked about this the very first week. It's always about improving, trying to better yourself. And so, no, I mean, that's good for you that you're finding a place that is company owned, and hopefully we'll treat you right and get the job done well.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's to me hoping, right? What's going
Right.
on with
Well, for me, man, it's been a lot. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I will tell you that. Working overnight in the news kind of speaks for itself and creates its own problems. Yeah, I don't know. I've gone through some life changes recently. I've had to do some recalibrating, some recoordinating with my own personal life, but it's all been for the better. It's been for the better, and I can't complain. I see the bright side of all of it. I mean, essentially, what I'm saying is, went through a breakup, and it's a long term relationship, but truly, I mean, I can't complain, man. I cannot complain. is one of those things where it's like you have so much anticipation leading up to the actual act itself that
Mhm.
you're just more scared of actually doing it than what will come after it, you know? And it's a shame when two people open themselves up in that way and it doesn't work out. But, you know, it's like our two favorite people on YouTube, right? The Hodge twins. They,
Mhm.
um, they, you know, it's like they say 99.9% of all relationships end in a train wreck. and, yeah, and so, I mean, you know, that's partly true, but it's, you know, I just don't have any ill will or bad feelings about it. I don't have any regrets, is what I'm saying. And so,
That's good.
yeah, I'm moving in a better direction. Funny enough, you know, we talked about dating, online dating, a couple of times now, and actually,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not looking to get back into the dating game necessarily, but I wanted to try it out just because we've talked so much about it, both on here and you know in person. But I downloaded Bumble. I'm not gonna lie, shout out to them, man. It's I can see why people get addicted to it. I really can. Like it is addictive.
Yeah, I mean, you can be on there for hours, and not even notice.
I know
It's almost like a video game.
it
It's kinda
really
weird.
is. Yeah, and well, I mean, and you could do that. See where I live. I probably start seeing the same girls after like 30 minutes, you know, like oh, I already swiped right on her once before. Um, but you know, and they do, I gotta say, they do a great job with marketing themselves even after you've already downloaded the product because it's like you get these notifications. Hey, you got people that like you. You know, you get emails. Hey, you got 22 people that have swiped right on you. You know, you should start swiping right to see if you can find out who they are. And
Mhm.
I'm like, man, like they do a good job of keeping you using their app. They really
Yeah.
do. But and so that's been kind of the struggle for me is because I've had it for about 48 hours now, and I'm like, you know, you're not ready for this, right? But like you're still trying to use it. It's I don't know. It's funny. And it basically speaks to everything that we were talking about because it's both a good tool, but then also superficial and just turns people into a number, you know, at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. In some ways, it kinda dehumanizes the person that you're actually looking at. It kinda reminds me and it kinda goes back to just internet culture in general. We get a lot of people who are on like Twitter or on like Facebook or on YouTube or any of these social media platforms. And they tend to say things that if you know that person in real life, you know that stuff would never come out of their mouths.
Right.
But for some strange reason, they believe that there's this type of anonymity that comes with being online. I
Yes.
think it's just because you're not getting that instant like cause and effect deal.
I
You're
agree.
not actually truly feeling what it feels like to say what you just said. That's the reason why we get cyberbullying and stuff like that. It's because people just don't understand that there still are consequences to what they say. It's just because they can't see it, right then and there.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that there aren't consequences to their actions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's so true through all of social media. And like you said, internet culture. Um, seems like we've become more of an angry society, more of a society with angst because of all this stuff. And so it's interesting. I will say the positives to it. Like I've seen a couple of females on here that it's very clear that they're on there for the same reason I am. Being that I
Mhm.
work overnight and I work in the news and I have all these other projects I'm doing. There's one girl, uh, uh, not gonna name names, but it doesn't matter because I can't remember her name anyway. And that's like the shady side of this thing anyway. Like I don't know her name. I just remember what she looked like. but but you know, so anyway, with this, what was she? She was like a student and a special ed para. Um, and oh, she had like a couple other hobbies that keep her really busy. I'm like, okay, well, like I see that this is the best avenue for you to try and meet someone because you're busy, you're driven, and that's the kind of person I would want to look for, you know. Um,
Mhm.
so it's good. And then you have the opposite side of that, where I think I saw this tonight. Somebody's bio said, oh, let me think. It was like, um, hey, or oh god, it was like, hey, um, if you're if you're not interested, what was it? If you're not interested in marriage and spending all of your free time with me, then don't even bother. I was like, well, thank you for saving my time. Like, I'm not talking against marriage. We've talked about that. I'm talking like
Yeah,
I'm gonna have some free time that I'm gonna want to use on myself, you know. So
exactly.
yeah, I was like,
My relationship with you isn't defined by um it's not, I'm not just a one-dimensional person. I'm not just in a relationship. I am my own person at the same time.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I mean, it's like we've talked about the negatives to it, the superficial side of it, the in human part of it, and then there's the opposite side of that where it's like you get to meet people that you would never normally meet because they're just as busy as you are, you know. And then you also get to save time because you find out all you need to know about someone just from their just from their 3 sentence bio they put on there. So it's been interesting, but I've been giving that a shot. And like I said, I'm not serious about it right now, but I was just interested in trying it out to see where it goes for when I am interested. So, um, but yeah, man, that's kind of what I've been up to. I'm glad that things are progressing with your car. Tell me again, when are you planning on doing that?
So I'm trying to schedule it to where I can do it in December. I feel like that'll probably work the best just for time off wise and some of the holidays, because I figure I can use some of the holidays that I have off, and as well as some vacation time that I'll be taking during that time. I'm
Okay.
hoping that I'll be able to actually use that to, get my car in there and not have to worry about like, oh man, I don't have another car.
Right, right.
So
Yeah. So when are you gonna get repainted the same color, or what are you thinking?
I'm doing same color. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do the same color. I just really wanted just to respray because it's chipping a little bit, so I'd rather just have it resprayed. It looks nice, and we're good to go. I mean, body wise, there really aren't any issues with it, so
All right.
just
Well,
need to repaint it.
yeah. Once that gets done, we'll have to throw that up somewhere for people to come check out. Hopefully, we'll have our website live by then. Um,
Yeah, man.
yeah, we'll get people to connect with that and take a look. But all right. Well, I know we got some topics we want to get into here, and
Hmm.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let us take a break here, and we'll come back with our first topic.
Perfect.
All right, man. So let's get into some of these topics. I know one of the things that I saw, and I know you want to talk about it. YouTube had like a brief outage the other day. I didn't even notice anything happened, honestly.
Yeah, man. I'm on YouTube quite frequently, so when YouTube went down, it was kind of a big deal for me. But
Right.
yeah, this happened on Tuesday, and it was actually down for about like an hour and a half or so. It's
Yeah. So
very
Tuesday. So
surprising.
today is what, Thursday the 18th. So Tuesday, because I know it's going to be delayed. So Tuesday the 16th of
Hmm.
October. Um. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Well. So I don't think I was sleeping when this happened. I think I was awake. I'm pretty sure I was. I didn't even notice. Like I said, I didn't even notice anything happened. Like
Yeah.
it must have been real quick, right?
Well, I mean, it was an hour and a half, so not super
Was it
real
really?
quick. Yeah. I mean, pretty much it was down. It started at what? I think about 8 or 9 or so, like that.
Yeah.
And then it
O-
ended at like 11 or so
Okay. Yeah, so the whole thing was down,
Eastern.
or what was up?
So yeah, it was all of YouTube, and it was like a global deal. If I'm not mistaken, they were saying that it was about 2/3 of the world's internet population could not access YouTube,
Really?
which is insane.
Yeah.
Um, and it, like I said, it lasted for about an hour and a half, and people were just freaked out and crazy. I mean, YouTube's had outages before, but they're really, really short. They're usually like a minute or two. It's very small blips, nothing to this extent. I did a little bit of research, and it seems like it's a little strange, but it seems like the issue was in Pakistan. Strangely enough, yeah, it starts in Pakistan. So
Really?
um, in Pakistan, apparently there was a video that was out on YouTube
Okay.
talking about it was a trailer for a movie that a Dutch lawyer was making, and it
What?
was and yeah, it's very strange. So the Dutch lawyer apparently was making a movie where he was trying to portray the Islamic culture or something like that as a fascist and women and sexist and all and homophobic and all that other stuff like that. So
Okay.
Pakistan tried to censor that.
And
So they
this
wanted
went
to censor
live.
YouTube.
And this
Yeah.
went
So
live
what
in
in
Pakistan. So, oh, I see what you're saying. So they tried to. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So I mean, uh, in Pakistan they were trying to censor this, but the way that it ended up happening was they were making it to where the way that they were censoring it was if anyone in Pakistan were to, try to go to YouTube or whatever and try to go to that specific video, it'd be routed to their main router or something like that. And
Okay.
so if anyone tries to go to that specific video, it just instantly drops. That router is programmed to instantly drop those packets, pretty much going to that specific video, really just censoring that video, but it kind of ended up going a little bit farther than that.
Really? That's so
Well,
weird.
so when they created that router, they actually ended up publishing it
Oh
um,
no.
to the international internet, and small errors like these, when they happen, they distribute to everywhere around, and so that's the reason why, pretty much, once that router was put on the international network, it said that router was posting like, "Hey guys, if you want to go to YouTube, I'm the fastest router." And
Yeah.
just the way that computers work and the way networking works, I mean, they're going to take the fastest route.
Sure.
So every single person, or pretty much every single computer, was just like, "Oh, cool, that's fast to get to YouTube. Okay, cool. I'm just going to
Oh.
route my traffic straight through there." And so everybody ended up getting uh, denied access because of that one router.
So this is true even with like phones and stuff like that, right? It basically just happened on every device.
Yeah, every device that uses the internet.
That's crazy. Man, it's so good that you're breaking
And
this down too, because like I've seen a lot of it, obviously putting it in the news. I had a story on this too, but I've not really seen any sort of description as to what happened or what went on, you know?
mhm. Yeah, so I mean, it's if anything, this is an event that shows just how vulnerable our own network is, and just how vulnerable the internet is
Yeah.
in general, because any sort of like miss keystroke or whatever when someone's putting these things in can cause catastrophic uh, chain reactions throughout the whole uh, World Wide Web.
Yeah. And I will
So,
tell you too, like one thing I did see is people freaking out on social media. I mean, like they thought like I saw everything from thinking that the government was censoring like entertainment, which I mean was technically true, but it wasn't our government and it wasn't technically entertainment. That's A. And then B, I saw people thinking it was like a sign of the world coming to an end, like nuclear warfare and all this stuff. Like someone took out. YouTube headquarters and all this stuff. Man,
Oh my
had me
gosh.
dying. And I saw this one comment where this guy was like, okay, well, we've gone thousands of years without YouTube, and 10 years after it's created and goes down, and people think the world is ended. I was like, yep, pretty much. And man, it was kind of funny. So that was really my experience with it. I literally, like, the day it happened, because you know me, I love going to the gym, making gains, making all kinds of
Of
gains.
course.
I went to the gym. Well, I woke up, I watched a YouTube video, went to the gym, and then came back and then watched more YouTube. And like somewhere in between there, like literally the entire time I was at the gym, I think was the time that YouTube went down.
Probably
And it was so
was.
bad too because it was like that prime viewing time, because more and more people are moving away from um like DirecTV and Dish and all that kind of stuff, and they're moving to like those over the top services. I have YouTube TV. That's one of those over the top in that
Mm.
it goes. It's technically a technical term, but it basically just makes it so you're getting the actual content without needing a box or any sort of dish on your house or whatever. So it goes over the top of that. Um, I
Hmm.
think, to tell the truth, I've actually gotten into this bad habit of watching YouTube TV while I'm working out. And I didn't I so I think I was doing that. I don't think that had an issue because obviously it's a completely separate entity. But
Well,
did it?
technically, YouTube TV services were affected as well as music
Were they
services.
really? So all of
So I
YouTube.
don't know. Yeah, all of YouTube, every last deal on YouTube was just messed up, was gone.
That's
At
crazy.
least that's what I read. I mean, of course, I don't have YouTube TV, so I can't exactly uh, check it out.
Right.
But from the sources that I read, they said that it was pretty much all of YouTube,
Huh.
both their TV and web services. And I think they got their TV and web services out first, and then it was everything
Okay.
else.
Huh. I That's so wild to me. And like for us, for America, it was like prime viewing time too. Like everybody's off work, they're at home, they're relaxing, watching YouTube. Man, it caused straight pandemonium. Like I haven't seen that crazy of a reaction on social media for quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since we've actually seen people freak out the way that they did, but I don't know. I it's as I said before, it's kind of a testament to just how vulnerable we are, just how one small, misstroke or miss keystroke or one uh, problem that they did, and at the same time, this is a multi-factored thing, is because um, for that router to get onto the international network, they have to go through a service provider, um, and that service provider usually should um, vet whatever's going on there,
Yeah.
which they didn't do.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it
So
wasn't
it's
properly tracked either.
exactly. So there are multiple things that show that we don't really take, I guess in some ways we don't take our internet as important as it should be, or we don't try to actually make it as um you know a,
Secure.
how yeah, gosh darn, I guess I'm having a hard time saying it, but yeah, pretty much we're not trying to make it as secure as it should be. A
Right.
lot of people were saying that there really was no full prevention that you could do to stop this from happening, which is
Really?
a really bad thing to say. But yeah, they were saying that there wasn't really a way that to prevent this from happening. Like this just kind of happened. And I'm
That's
like,
not
that's kind
good.
of scary.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not good. That's not something you want to hear from someone who holds as much power as Google, because they own YouTube, obviously.
exactly.
Yeah, you do not want to hear that. I mean, I think these kind of things always raise the question of what else could happen. What else is vulnerable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously that's a big fear for a lot of people. And we've talked a lot already about the future of technology and how we're going more artificial intelligence and automation and electronic. And a quick Google search will tell you there's a lot of doomsday people who are fearful of like an EMP attack, electromagnetic pulse on a such a large scale that basically could shut down our country. Now there are also other people that say that's impossible. And I realize I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I think uh at least the semi-rational people who freaked out about this YouTube outage, that might be their
Mm-hmm.
concern because
Yeah.
you think, okay, well, what's going to happen first? I mean, obviously, if in times like these, you're going to take away entertainment and stuff like that. It does make you think, like, if something like that's vulnerable, obviously there are way more important things. But we hear about, the Pentagon, for example, getting hacked by China, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that's on a global and governmental scale. But still, it is interesting to think about like what all this stuff that we put so much faith and time and effort into, how it's not nearly as secure as we like to think it is.
Exactly. Exactly. A lot of our technologies, I've been a kind of a big thing. I've been really big on cybersecurity, and when I was doing, I did a research paper about the need for cybersecurity and stuff like that. And one of the things that I found that were really interesting is that we really don't take our own internet security or cybersecurity as we don't make it as important as it should be because
Right.
going back to like the 2013 Target fiasco where they had lost where they'd gotten hacked and many people lost like money, all of their money and accounts and stuff like that. Well, funny thing is, it was about a month or so before that attack, they had already upgraded and performed these big, big cybersecurity movements and security checks and stuff like that to be really, really, really secure. And this happened. And it was
Yeah.
mainly because they didn't pay attention. They had the tools and the technology to see what could have happened, but they didn't pay attention to what actually could have happened.
Right. And now, is that the one where they didn't disclose the amount of information of people who had been impacted by this until years later? Is that hack, or is that another one? Because there've been a lot lately.
There have been. This was the Black Friday hack or whatever, where they
Okay.
where it was just a bunch of people, people, if you shopped at Target during like Black Friday, you pretty much got hacked.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know that Yahoo did that where they already said an extreme amount of number of their accounts had been hacked. They later came out and said, I mean, like much later, came out and said, actually, every single account has been hacked,
Yeah, exactly.
and that or compromised. The information has. Now, as far as I have a Yahoo email, which I probably shouldn't put that out there because it'll get hacked. But but I have a Yahoo email, and the amount of information they ask you for on that account isn't. Well, some may call it extensive, but it's not as extensive as other services are, and so it leads me to this: if Yahoo can get hacked, and then YouTube can have this issue, right? Many of us
Hmm.
have a Gmail account. Technically, I have a Google account without Gmail. What if that gets compromised? Because Google asks you for all kinds of things: your home address, your credit card number, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
That in some cases, I think this happened to me. I was putting it in And Google's supposed to ask you to save this stuff, but I was putting it in to buy something online and it just automatically saved my information on Google Chrome. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know it was doing it. And so, yeah, it makes you wonder, like, again, we put all of our faith into this stuff. And in the case of Target, like you were talking about, that's not even an online thing, although they do have an app. They have online shopping and this and that. But we put a lot of faith in that stuff. And look what that did. We're still talking about that 5 years later almost.
Exactly. But I think a good segue now is to actually go with your topic, because I know you were talking about some cybersecurity stuff, or not
Yeah.
cybersecurity, but cryptocurrency.
Well, yeah, it is an interesting topic. I want to jump into that real quick, but first, let's take one more break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into that. All right, man. Yeah. So yeah, what you were talking about, you're exactly right. This flows well into cryptocurrency, blockchain, all that stuff. I think it's kind of a realm that not a lot of people understand a lot about. And yeah, there's a lot with this. There's more questions than answers, even to, I believe, the people that know a lot about it. Um, and there's certain levels to cryptocurrency. So I'm gonna dive right in. Basically, I got into this a couple months ago, started looking into it. Um, Man, probably almost 6 months ago now. And I was more just curious on the money making aspect of things because recently crypto has been brought into more of the mainstream. There was this boom in November, December of last year, almost a year ago, where the price of Bitcoin, which is the one that everybody knows, jumped up to, I think I'm going to say, better watch my words. I think $17,000 a coin.
Sounds about right. It was pretty high up there.
Yeah, I think that was the case. And so it jumped up super high and a lot of people made a lot of money off of it. I actually work with a guy who's been invested in Bitcoin since the early days. I mean, the
Really?
early days. And I don't know if he sold or not. Even if he sold right now, he'd still make a ton of money. But kudos to him for investing in the early days. I didn't pay much attention to it early on because it didn't seem like there were a lot of safe ways to invest in it. And there really have not been until recently. Um and so this
True.
mainstream kind of boom has really helped that. But anyway, back on topic. The point is it brought it into the mainstream, caught my attention. I did some research about it and thought, hey, I can make I could make some money doing this. Um, Turned out that's not the case. It's not the case. It may be the case down the road. Um, but there are over 1,500 different cryptocurrencies because, like, just as you and I have created this podcast, we could go out there and make a cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
It is not hard at all, and um, but to actually have something that has what they call a utility or a purpose and something that can make a difference in society and then make long-term investors want to get involved, that those are few and far between, and those are the actual projects that you want to spend time with. So what I've learned is there's a lot of technology behind this. Most all of it,
Oh man.
well, and technically all of it is supposed to be associated with blockchain technology, which you can kind of explain better than I can. But
Mm-hmm.
um it's supposed to be in its most basic form, it's supposed to be a safer, more secure and faster way to transfer money in many different facets. But you go ahead, try to break down this blockchain thing real fast.
Okay, so I'll just do a quick short and skinny of it. So, for the most part, the blockchain is a new algorithm, pretty much, where each individual chain or block in the chain or whatever is constantly authenticated and identified and made sure that, hey, that's, you are you. I know that you are you. um, the implications for blockchain is one in cryptocurrency where it becomes a very secure, like you said, secure and anonymous type of currency, and you don't have to worry about replication or anybody reprinting anything like that. Or it's not like a US dollar where people, technically the government can reprint bills and stuff like that. Well, blockchain, it doesn't work that way. You can't reprint more blocks in the chain. And if you introduce anything that is like a fake currency, say, I've made some fake Bitcoin or whatever and try to introduce that in the system. Well, the blockchain is a constant, like, you can kind of think of it as like a hive mind where it knows, hey, I know how many there are of me, and I know what, specific code or cipher or whatever that is associated with each individual block in the blockchain. So if you try to introduce something that is not of the blockchain or whatever, like that wasn't made in that one, it automatically instantly knows, oh, hey, that's not right. And then it kicks it out.
Right.
The reason why blockchain is so important or so cool is that you can use it in multifacets. You can use it in, it sounds weird, but you can also think of it as you can use it in like a digital contract with someone.
Okay.
So if you made a contract with someone and said, hey, I give you this, hey, I want to fund your podcast or whatever, just to kind of
Okay.
make some sort of whatever.
I like where that's
and
going.
then we understand, like, it's a mutual agreement where we make the podcast and they'll fund it and all that good stuff, and they get a certain proceed or whatever. So we make a contract in that blockchain. Well, that blockchain, if someone tries to come in and say, like, well, I have this other contract, or this is the true contract or something like that. Well, using blockchain, you can automatically verify, hey, that's not true, because this is the contract that we signed and this is the correct one.
Okay.
So there's no counterfeiting or anything like that. It takes away the counterfeiting aspect of it.
Okay.
And there's also like a finite amount of, say, like for cryptocurrency, there's like a finite amount of cryptocurrency that there is. It doesn't grow or change.
It changes. Well, and that's based off of each type of crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, you just taught me some things. I mean, there's a lot to this. There's a lot of facets to it. The funny enough, I've tried to get Dennison to do crypto with me, and he would not do it. But he knows a lot about it, which is probably maybe why you won't do it. Actually, so I'll just kind of give you a trajectory of where I went with it. I did research on projects because I am interested in the technology. I do think that eventually a digital currency will supersede our current currency, and it might even be a global currency. Now, do I know that for sure? No, but that is my assumption, and it will start transitioning there in the next 10 years from the research that I've done. So I did some research. I looked into certain projects. Ethereum, a great one. It's my favorite personally is Ripple, aka XRP. The reason it's my favorite is I think it has the most utility, and it's the best chance. So crypto was kind of invented to kind of supersede banks, and override the banks, so to speak. And let's be honest, there's no way that's going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Banks have too much power, So the best thing to do, in my mind, is if you can't beat them, then join them. And that's exactly what Ripple is trying to do. So they have provided a service because all of these have to have technology with them, not just a currency. So that's how the blockchain technology is involved. Their technology allows you to send money, no matter what type of currency it is, to banks, to banking institutions, from bank to bank around the world, almost instantaneously. It doesn't matter if it's a totally different type of money. it will convert it to Ripple, to XRP coins, send it,
Mm-hmm.
and then convert it into the other type of currency. Whereas if you had one type of currency and sent it to another bank, it would take several days to convert it, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, that obviously has a ton of ways it can be applied and used. I think it's great. So
And it's also super secure. Sorry, it's also super secure and encrypted as well.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, it really is. And so I've found these things, and so I invested in Ethereum. I invested in a couple others, and man, lost all my investments in Ethereum to a phishing scam, which was a couple of $100. I mean, lost all of it. It was my own fault.
Oh man, I'm
No,
sorry.
I fell for the oldest trick in the book, man. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I shed a tear or two because I'm like, come on, I worked so hard for this money, man. It's like a whole paycheck. But the funny thing is, the market has gone through, I guess you could say, a price correction this year. So it was not a good time to get invested anyway. And essentially, I would have lost
Mm-hmm.
almost all that money anyway. Now, would I rather still have it than some random dude across the globe having it? Yes, I would. But either way, I probably would have lost it. Now, my thing with cryptocurrency is this: we've talked about saving up for a new truck. You know, um, I don't regret getting involved into it. I just regret doing it when I did. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's just because I'd rather have the money for a truck right now. But regardless, um, Ripple's program to do these lightning transactions between these banks is set to go live. Oh, I think they said either by the end of this month or early next. And so once that happens, oh man, as they say in the crypto world, it's going to the moon. So, and it will, like it will have more utility than almost any of the others. So, um, I'm looking forward to that. I'm holding on to my money right now until I go to buy a truck, and hopefully by that point the project will be live and my investments will have gone way up. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, so I don't know about you. My personal opinion is there's a lot of place for cryptocurrency in this world, especially in a global market. You know, I don't know if you'd agree with that.
So in some ways, I do. I think cryptocurrency is great, and the use of it would work. Um, I'm not really a big proponent to investing in cryptocurrency,
Yeah,
because it is currency in general, and currency fluctuates. It does get to a point where it'll stabilize to an extent, but it's the same as like the dollar or anything like that. Like I wouldn't invest in the dollar.
right, because it's a
Well,
dollar.
I mean, exactly. I mean, and it's the same with any other type of currency. I wouldn't exactly invest in it. Um, yes, blockchain or not blockchain, but Bitcoin or whatever like that will start to taper out once it gets closer to that finite number or whatever like that. But um, I still wouldn't invest in it just because, like I said, it fluctuates and it changes, and it's not something that's easy to uh, like really keep up with.
Sure. Well, and I try to look at it like this. I try to look at it like they are basically making something that we can. I try to look at more like stocks is what I'm trying to say. I try to look at more like stocks. You're investing in a company rather than a currency.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of helps equate it more in my mind than that because technically you are doing that, while at the same time investing in a currency because those companies are based around that currency. You know what I mean? Um, and so because of that, that's why there are so many different cryptos on the market is because they can be get rich quick schemes. Have you heard of Dogecoin by any
Mm-hmm.
chance? Yeah. Yeah. So Dogecoin was created as a joke, and now it is one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies on the market.
Hmm.
Um,
And they've actually done quite a lot with that money to actually help a lot of things as well.
they have, yeah, they've done a
Mhm.
lot of charitable work through that, which is awesome. I think that's fantastic. Um, so yeah, there's been a lot that's come from that, but in its infancy, it was just created for nothing, and then somehow because there's a certain like pump and dump type of scheme.
Mhm.
The pump and dump, which is a terrible name, God. But basically, they would put all this money into the thing, just pump it up, pump it up, pump up the price, and then pull out of it. And they'd make a whole bunch of money having done that, having got a whole bunch of investors into it. While meanwhile, there's a bunch of people out there that don't even know this is happening, so they lose a whole bunch of money. Um, and then, but yeah, that was all part of the process. So then that made it more noticeable. I'm a racing fan, as I've said before. Dogecoin actually sponsored a NASCAR one race. Like they actually had the money. I at that point I had no idea what it was, what he was even talking about. But obviously the Doge is
Mhm.
based off of an internet meme. Um, and so that is literally the emblem of this coin is this meme. And so it was all a joke to begin with, and now it's one of the most powerful cryptocurrencies in the market. I think the whole thing is hilarious and ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. Well, basically, what these companies are waiting on is institutional investors, and like people from Wall Street, for example, um,
Mhm.
because then it will help the costs go up. The prices will go up. People will get rich. Um,
Mhm.
and it will hopefully bring some market stability. But there has to be market stability to a extent in the first place for that to happen. I just don't see that happening right now.
I'm right there with you. I don't think any market stability is going to happen, at least not until laws have finally gotten to a point where they start to acknowledge these currencies. Because in some ways, our lawmakers still don't exactly acknowledge cryptocurrency or even try to think of that, people are actually investing in these types of things.
Right.
And so I feel like until there's any sort of like governance over it, it's not going to be stable
No, I
at
agree.
all.
I agree. Um, do you think that there will ever be a day where it is accepted? Because here's why I have a question about that. Um, not to sound like I'm, um, 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 putting people into a group here, but our government is run by a bunch of old white people. Okay. And while that does not mean necessarily that you don't understand newer technology, because we all know that's not true, I think there is a good amount of people that just don't. And I follow CoinDesk on Twitter, and they put out a lot of crypto news. And there have been several hearings recently for crypto on Capitol Hill, and just
Hmm.
the questions people ask, they just do not seem to understand. I'm talking about the senators or the representatives. They do not seem to
Hmm.
understand anything about this technology, but yet they're the ones that are supposed to make the laws regulating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I, I think eventually there will be a wake up call. Um, right now, I mean, lawmakers are already starting to, and we already know this in general. Our lawmakers are a little bit slow on the take of when it comes to technology. We're already starting to see some laws starting to be passed and uh, made aware for like autonomous cars or whatever like that, um, which is a fairly new technology. So I think at the same rate as it becomes more and more popular, there will be a point to where these lawmakers have to make sure that things run properly. They're going to have to take the time to research and understand why this needs to be a bigger priority than what they're making it.
Right. Right. And I think it will take more competition on the global economy scale, you know?
Mhm.
Obviously China is pushing us in that direction, but of course we all know that there's been a bit of a trade war going on lately. um
Yeah.
and so I think that it might be a while before we get to this point where it's a necessity we find a replacement to our currency situation, you know? It's
Mhm.
going to take some time, and we're not quite there yet. Um, and so, in the meantime, I would recommend that no one jump into the cryptocurrency world. Like, do not do it. And I know that sounds ridiculous because clearly I am doing it. But they're already, and this is not meant as a slam, but there's already enough people in this industry that don't understand the industry. And that hurts it more than anything because then you end up having people that think they understand what's going on and they don't. So it keeps the industry from growing, you know, and it also hurts the
Mhm.
validity of it. I believe in it. I believe in the technology. I think some of it may be a little unnecessary, but I think there are others that are great. And you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dash is another one. Those are cryptocurrencies that are widely accepted and widely on a relative scale, you know, as far as cryptocurrency goes. But there are
Mhm.
websites, there are stores. I'm sure you went to South Korea recently, and I'm sure you may have seen some places that accepted that.
Uh, I did see a few things. It wasn't super widespread, but there were a couple venues, mainly like technology venues or whatever like that, that would accept cryptocurrency and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's still not. It's still not like at a widespread scale.
The reason I say that is because South Korea is really big into the cryptocurrency market and all that kind of stuff. They were one of the first countries to get into it, and I think they actually accept Bitcoin as a national currency now. Like not the national currency, but as a currency nationwide. You know,
Huh? That's pretty
um,
interesting. Did not know
yeah.
that.
So there's just a lot, and there's a lot of negative stigma around crypto. There's just a lot to be learned, you know, for everyone. So anyway, that's just kind of my spiel. It will be interesting to see where this goes. I'm sure we'll talk about this even more down the line when I either make a whole lot of money or I lose it all and I'm living on the street.
Yeah, man. Well,
Um,
remember me if you get big time.
I'll try. I'll try. No, I'm sure if I get big time, man, this podcast will make it big time. I promise. So, um, all right. Well, let's take one more break. We'll come back with one more topic, and then we'll get out of here. All right, man, we got just enough time for one more topic. Let's jump into it. So I guess there was a bug with Windows 10. Yeah, I mean, I have Windows 10, so I kind of want to know what's going on here.
Yeah. So Windows, the way Windows 10 works, they're trying to use it as like their omni platform. So there's no such thing as like Windows 11 or whatever like that. So it's always going to be Windows 10 from here on out, or at least that's what the plan is. So every 6 months, Windows comes out with a new update, which is like a feature update. And this
Right.
feature update is almost like a new operating system. It's almost like Windows, whatever. Um, and so it started this October. Um, a few people found out that after updating to the latest update, they ended up finding that there were some documents missing from their computers. It
Really?
was things that were, yeah, pretty much it would be documents in their documents folders, and some people said that they had lost everything in their documents folder. Some people said that they had lost a couple of other things, like a lot of personal information just kind of disappeared from their computers.
What?
And so I know it's pretty insane. And it got to a point to where Microsoft had to officially stop the patch or the feature update from launching to other people's computers,
Really?
to make sure that to make sure that they were able to fix it. Um, Come to fast forward a couple days later, they had figured out what the problem was, and strangely enough, it's pretty much a bad coding in some ways.
Okay. Once
So
again.
um, yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, the way I remember this is that Microsoft, sometimes they would be moving Microsoft when they're changing like settings and moving stuff around during their feature updates and stuff like that. um, they'll move directories, or if someone just decides to move a directory, so let's say you wanted to have your documents folder somewhere else or in your computer or whatever like that,
Sure.
and there were complaints from people who were saying like, well, after a feature update sometimes I get like a double deal. So I'll have like documents in two different locations.
Really?
So what Microsoft did was they went back and coded it to where it would delete that file path. So that way you didn't have a double, locations for documents.
Right.
Well,
But instead
the
deleted
lazy
those documents?
exactly. Well, the problem was the lazy coding was they didn't code in a um, phrase or a way to make sure that when it's deleting that file path,
Mhm.
that it doesn't that you know it checks. They didn't put in there that it checks to make sure that there's nothing in that folder
Okay.
or that file path or where it's going to before it deletes it.
Oh,
So when that update launched, if someone had moved any of their stuff into like different locations or whatever like that, it would just delete the file path without even like checking to make sure that users actually didn't have anything in that location.
dang.
So users would just lose all of their
Well,
stuff.
first of all, I just have to say that I am so glad we have you here because I would not understand any of this at all. But you like put it in a way I can understand, so that's always good. But
Yeah, well, it's my
uh,
job, so.
you're right, it literally is your job. So that's good. But yeah, no, I would much rather have two of my document rather than just one or zero of a document.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with this. I not even sure if I even got the update in the first place, but I haven't even had issues with any dual copies. Have you?
I haven't, but at the same time, I never moved the location of any of my file types. Like, and this is talking about your main file stuff. So,
So like
I've.
actually stuff that's more built into the original operating system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
not like this podcast. Like if I save this
No.
podcast, not like that. Okay, so I probably wouldn't notice it in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed to only affect users who had moved those things around. Um, so it was just kind of putting in that phrase, but if you never moved anything around, it's not going to delete your stuff. But they stopped the
Okay.
update just to make sure. Not a lot of people were affected by it, but apparently it was enough. And if you really think about it, Microsoft and Windows is really in a huge amount of PCs. So even if it affected like 1%, that's still a huge population of
Oh, that's
people.
hundreds of thousands. Yeah.
Exactly. So they pretty much stopped it and had to go back down to the drawing board and fix their coding.
Huh. So if you took, yeah. So basically, if you moved like, let me think. If you like moved your settings application where you can adjust the settings, it would create two settings applications.
It was mainly for document folders. So
Oh, just
instead
document
of,
folders.
yeah, so if you were, it's if you go to your desktop or whatever like that, um, and you normally will put whatever documents you want in your documents folder. It was
Yeah.
mainly if someone were to move that location of the documents folder.
Okay.
to like route your files to a completely different location in Windows instead of, say, hey, when I save a file, it's not going to go to the documents folder, or I'm moving where the documents folder is going to be.
Okay.
When you would do that, that's when you would run into those strange issues. So it was only certain users who were doing that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. So, just to clarify, it was not like an actual security issue, right?
No, not
Oh,
exactly. It's just lazy coding.
sure. Although I suppose it could have been a security issue depending on what was deleted, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been. If anyone had, I mean, there were reports of people who had lost like terabytes worth of data
Jeez.
because it
That's
just
crazy.
wiped their stuff out. I mean, this update was also a big change because previously, when Windows was getting ready to update your system, before it would do these system updates, it would check to make sure that you had enough hard drive space to actually download the update and then do it. This one they took out that feature.
Wow.
So if you just so happened to download it and you didn't have enough space, it would download it and then try to run it and try to install it. And if you didn't have enough space, it would just error out and fail,
Oh,
and which
okay.
could potentially cause other issues.
Yeah. Which I guess in that case it was good. It was deleting stuff so you could have more space on your computer. Man, that's crazy. It just goes back
Yeah.
to what we were saying earlier, is we put all of our faith into these systems, run by these people that we never see or hear from. And while this is fixable, it's not really, you can't ever get those things back. And I'm sure for a lot of these people, these were serious documents or important things that they needed, that they had to have,
Mhm.
maybe even for their business, and maybe even some of those that were impacted were businesses. So the idea that, you can just impact somebody's life just through an update, I mean, it is an interesting world that we live in. I just want to go back one more time to how we talked about how we've kind of lived in the older way of doing things and the newer way of doing things just in
Mhm.
the relatively short amount of time we've been alive. And, now you got stuff that like this, like it's just, man, I don't know. Maybe I'm just nerdy about this stuff in general. I mean, fax machines are still cool to me. Okay. I mean, it literally scans the paper, shoots it through a tube, like not a tube, obviously a cable.
Mm.
And then somebody else gets that exact paper. Anyway, all right, I'm tripping. But the thing is, like, it's, we put all of our lives and all of our trust onto these things. And you would think even more so than putting it onto a Google server or something like that. If you saved it onto your own desktop, it would be more safe. But clearly, that's been proven to not quite be true, right?
Exactly.
Even for
This is the reason why backing up files and things are very important.
right, which people don't do. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't. I don't, not nearly as much as I should. My dad does. He has like a whole separate hard drive for that. I have not done that. And with all the stuff, all the music equipment, or not equipment, but recordings and obviously now podcasts and all that stuff, should probably start doing that. Should probably start doing that.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to releasing a lot of that. And once again, we are working on putting together a website where we can house all this stuff on that website as well. Going to be music, going to be the project that I'm working on with our friend Devon. And we can't wait to get him on the show. We are going to get him on one of these weeks, but we will work on start
Hmm.
planning that out here soon. The podcasts will be available eventually down the road. Merchandise will be available, and you can just follow along with both of our lives. So that's all in the works, But right now, we didn't get to a heavy topic for this week. We will next week. We'll make it up. I even got some music we're gonna try for it. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking along with us. And if you're new, please give it a rating, a like, a subscribe, all that stuff. It just helps make us more visible to other potential listeners. And we, of course, really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, this has been The Catch Up.
And we'll see you next time.